Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my thoughts and opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Alternative.797. Am I the asshole for giving my friend a notice to move out after 8 months when she only asked for 45 days? Reddit has deemed this person the asshole. Let's find out why. I, 28 female, had a friend, 34 female, back in January, asked if she could stay with me for 45 days while waiting to relocate. I said yes. Well, those 45 days turned into 8 months. During the 45 days, she used $200 of her food stamps to put some groceries in the house. She was originally in my toddler's room on an air mattress. I purchased a metal frame, retrieved a mattress and dresser from storage, and relocated my office space upstairs for her to have a proper bedroom. When the 45 days had passed, her relocation fell through. We had a conversation where she said that she wouldn't stay without contributing. I spoke with my husband, and we agreed to $300 in cash. I told her this, and she had an attitude, and asked me, was that on top of the food stamps? I had not considered the food stamps as payment, because she ate the food as well. She made a remark of, I already feed y'all. That rubbed me the wrong way, but I let it slide and said $300 cash or food stamps, and she agreed to monthly food stamps. I didn't think that this would allow her to believe she didn't have to provide any household items. From the end of February to the beginning of June, a lot of things slid because I was dealing with my mental and physical health and a 1-year-old. My mom, who lives with us, noticed that my friend hadn't cleaned that bathroom only she was using and was not cleaning up behind herself in the kitchen. She told me that she would start the second process to relocating, but this, however, did not actually start. In May, I had a mental breakdown. I asked her to get a job and to assist with household necessities. This did not happen. On June 6th, she started her second relocation attempt. She asked me, was her being in my home contributing to my stress concerns? And I told her yes. At this point, I was ready for her to leave. She said that it takes 45 days for the transfer to have a decision, and she asked if she could stay until the end of the process. On June 24th, I gave her a notice to be out by August 30th, and we both signed it. A couple of days later, she came to me and told me that her transfer had never started on the intended date. On July 7th, she advised that the transfer request had officially started. I understood and felt that the August 30th date was enough time to get a decision. As we got closer to the date, she would periodically ask me if I still wanted her out on the 30th, and advising that she didn't have a plan. I told her yes. On the 24th, she spent an hour and a half with me and my mom, and when my mom and I went to our rooms, she moved out quietly. She didn't say bye, and she didn't thank me and my husband. I texted her that she could have said bye, and I just got a text attacking my husband and I, saying that we did her wrong, and I showed my true colors because we put her out with nowhere to go, and also added that her relocation was successful, but she didn't tell me because she felt I wanted her out. Well, in my opinion, it sounds like you have one less friend because you provided basically free housing to someone for 8 months, and this is how they thanked you? Like, I can't imagine overstaying your welcome by 5 times the original agreed upon amount, and then being like, well, you said that me being here for 5 times longer is stressing you out, so that just tells me that you showed your true colors. That's fucking ridiculous. Now, you might be wondering, how in the goddamn did a story like this end up with the rating asshole on r/am I the asshole? Well, as I'm sure none of you are surprised to have been following this channel for an extended period of time, user Hydra Head's comments. Not the asshole for wanting her gone, you're the asshole to yourself for having ever let anyone stay long enough to gain tenants' rights. And unfortunately, because they worded it like this, the Reddit You're the Asshole bot rated this post to be the asshole. Thankfully, basically every other comment from other users is not the asshole. This is the only one that says you're the asshole from what I could find, but because of how the bot works, the post unfortunately got the rating of you're the asshole. Which sucks because OP is very much not the asshole in this situation. This is someone who took advantage of OP's generosity. They're not an asshole or an idiot for deciding to try and help their friend out when they were in a tough bind. They were taken advantage of, and their kind nature was seen, used, and then twisted on them. And then they were blamed for being stressed out and showing their true colors by someone who honestly is not a fucking friend. If you have any documentation of like the original conversations and agreements that you made with this person, definitely keep them around, because this feels like the kind of person that will go around telling anyone who's a shared friend that you unjustly kicked them out of your home while they had no backup plan and they were just trying to get back on their feet, and that you showed your true colors by kicking them to the curb when they needed you the most. And of course, completely excluding the fact that they just stayed 5 times longer than the original agreed upon amount. I would just be ready in case they pull some shenanigans like that, but by no means is OP the asshole. The only thing they're guilty of is being taken advantage of for being too kind. EK Bat Day Sabbath. Am I the asshole for telling my friend I share everything with my wife and I don't believe in bro code? My friend and I have been friends for 25 years. We know each other well. We're both happily married. We never really dive into deep talks or anything like that. He has said things before that really weren't appropriate about women, not cheating or anything, and says, haha, bro code. I have told him forever that I don't believe in bro code. In my opinion, if you can't say something in front of your wife, then you either shouldn't be saying it, you should work on your communication, or you're not as compatible as you thought. Plus, I'm not protecting someone if they do something that goes against my own personal moral code. I mean, if he killed someone, I'd be there with a shovel and a hole and not tell anyone. There's always exceptions. What? Much later, he wanted to talk to me about something and told me it was in confidence. And I told him again, something he already knew, that anything he tells me, he's telling my wife too. They have also known each other nearly 20 years and get along great. We lived together for almost a decade. Anytime he wanted to talk about something, he'd go to her, and he knew that she'd tell me. There's nothing I don't tell my wife. Same for her. We both believe communication and openness are the key to a happy relationship, and we're pretty fucking happy. We basically never argue or disagree, and both of us know each other down to the core. So this last time, after telling him again that anything he confides in me will also go to my wife, he got upset. He contacted all of our friends and asked them if they'd go running to their wives when someone confided in them, and they're all on his side. I understand that it's not normal, but he has always known this, so it's not like it's a surprise. Am I the asshole for not wanting to keep secrets from my wife and being open about that? If I'm going to be 100% honest, I think this one is entirely performative, and he's more of just trying to get good boy points from Reddit for being so close and so personal with his wife. Because you're telling me that, like, if your buddy came up to you and confided in you that he is chronically sick with something, or has something very personal going on and he needs a guy's opinion on it, and just needs it to be done in confidence, that you would tell your wife immediately. But if he needed help hiding a body, you would help him. No questions asked, huh? But telling your wife every single sexist comment that your friends made, which, by the way, if he's making comments that you feel the need to tell your wife about and they make you uncomfortable, then perhaps maybe that's a friendship not worth keeping. And additionally, not telling your wife about every little personal secret that he confides in you with, that is against your moral code, no matter what. But helping him hide a body, that's within your moral code. Are you going to tell your wife that you helped the friend that makes sexist comments towards women hide a body? Like, do you not see the error in logic here? I know that you are probably being hyperbolic with your speech here, but at the same time, you were making a post asking for internet strangers' opinions on your actions, and you had to choose your language very concisely. You're not here to tell an entertaining story. This is not r/entitled people. This is you trying to find out if you're the asshole or not, and you chose to specifically state about your own personal moral code, then follow up in the next goddamn sentence that you would help your friend hide a body. Like, it is your choice to share everything with your wife, and you have been as transparent as you possibly can with that. But you need to understand there are consequences to taking that approach with your relationship with your wife. That because you're going to share everything with her, no matter what, That means that people are probably going to be less inclined to want to be that close to you, because they're not going to want their secrets or things they try to tell you in confidence to be shared. So that is a trade-off you are making by actively choosing this approach. I do commend you for your transparency, though. However, what I do not commend you for is still that weird backwards logic that anything that's told to you in confidence has to be shared with your wife. Because that's your moral code. But it's also in your moral code to hide a body. Choose your words more carefully in the future, dude, because this just makes your entire argument collapse and, honestly, just makes you look very performative. But of course, that is my personal opinion on this, and I'd be curious to hear what you all think in the comments below. Tell me what you think. How do you feel about someone sharing every piece in detail with their significant other, even if it's stuff told in confidence? What's your opinion on the whole weird moral code this guy just happens to have? Let me know. Officer Mama, 2016. Am I the asshole for stealing back Pokemon cards my fiance's nephews took? And possibly taking extras? Hello all, I'm keeping this off my main as my family members know my account and I don't want them asking me about it just yet. To set the background, I'm 29 female, my fiance is 31 male, and I have 3 children, 8 female, 7 female, 5 male. Sometime last year, my daughter Summer, the 8 female, started collecting Pokemon cards that her bio dad would gift her during visitation. I haven't kept up with the fandom as I aged, but collected coins as a kid, and loved the idea of helping my daughter grow her collection. I have also supplemented the collection from lucky Goodwill finds. It's about 5 binders worth of cards, with cards from between 1995 to 2018 generally, and some are very rare. My sister-in-law asked my fiance if we could babysit her 2 sons Peter, 8 male, and Paul, 7 male, while out of town for the weekend as she has to pick up her husband's nephew for something. I was not keen on this for a few reasons. Being, 1. Peter has to attend an alternative school for anger issues and outbursts, and though they have become less frequent, I wouldn't know how to handle it if something happens. 2. Peter has had issues in the past with stealing money from my fiance and I when we would leave cash out in our room. His mom would get defensive about it, but $10 was never something I'd die on a hill for, so I'd usually drop it. 3. Peter has also tried stealing my daughter's Pokemon cards in the past or my Dragon Ball Z cards. I took them back, but it blemished my reputation with my sister-in-law a tad. Despite all this, I hoped the weekend could go smoothly as she needed the help, so me and fiance agreed. However, last night while I was at work, Summer called me and asked if she could give her Pokemon cards to Peter. I could hear Peter whispering in the background. I was very clear in saying no, because I couldn't advise if there would be a fair trade or if he would take the more valuable cards. Later I asked my daughter if she really wanted to give him the cards, and she said no. This morning, while tidying my daughter's room, I saw all the Pokemon binders out. I had a bad feeling, opened them up, and discovered half the collection missing. The binders were full, but now there were empty pages and scattered cards missing. I was pissed. I went to Peter's backpack and found some of my DBZ cards, my other daughter's full rock collection, and a massive plastic bag with a bunch of Pokemon cards dumped in it. I took everything back and sorted my daughter's cards from Peter's, though I was just going by the cards' print dates, as Peter only had cards from 2022 and beyond, so I thought. I put the sorted cards in a lunchbox. I told my fiance at the time this, but Peter and Paul have noticed their card stash is much lighter and started whining and saying that their aunt gifted them some older cards that are missing. I'm sick and tired of them thinking they can just steal whatever they want from our house. Am I the asshole for not giving them any cards back, even if some are actually theirs? I'm worried they'll complain to my sister-in-law. Honestly, as fucked up as it is, maybe they'll actually learn something from this. Yeah, it's not fun when your things are stolen, huh, Peter and Paul? What do you think of that, huh? How does it make you feel when someone takes something of yours? Doesn't feel good, does it? The thing is, the kids have established themselves as being untrustworthy. You have no idea if they're just trying to pull a fast one on you, thinking that you don't know what Pokemon cards are, and that they can just quickly maybe get a few rare ones in, without you noticing or understanding what's going on. Hopefully this can be a nice little lesson for them not to steal other people's belongings, and in the future, I would definitely decline babysitting in the future. This actually reminds me when I was a kid, one of my mom's friends who also happened to be our neighbor, her son used to come over, and anytime he wanted one of my toys, he would ask for it, and when I would say no, he would go, "I'm gonna tell your mom," and then run downstairs. And then me, being afraid of getting in trouble, which I didn't quite have boundaries in place because I was 4 years old, would then be like, "No, don't tell my mom. Fine, you can have it." And usually it was just like small little trinkets and just things that didn't really matter, things you could probably pick up for 50 cents. So it wasn't a huge deal. Until one time, I got my hands on a bow rock. And for those of you who are familiar with Bionicles, you know that bow rocks are pretty fucking cool. They're essentially Bionicles that roll up into a ball, and they have this little lever on the back that when you press it, it's like head springs forward and attacks. It's really cool. One of my favorite Lego sets of all time. Love the little bastards. Anyways, 4-year-old me got my hands on a few bow rock. I was very happy with that. Kid comes over, grabs on the bow rock and goes, "Well, you have a few of these, so I can have one, right?" I say no. The kid then threatens to tell my mom, but this time, I didn't give in. And he went down, told my mom, and my mom was like, "No, you can't have that. That's his. What are you doing?" And then I informed my mother that he had been doing this for a while. She was pissed. And lo and behold, I got a lot of my stuff back that day. Some kids can be ghouls and goblins and thieves, and sometimes they need to learn the hard way that they're not always going to get their way. And hopefully OP's able to actually stick with their guns on this one. I don't know. I'm just thinking of this as a former child who had things taken by other kids and has dealt with little entitled thieves going through my belongings. Abbreviations Fair 886. Am I the asshole for telling my sister she wasn't always the chosen one? Reddit has deemed this person the asshole. Let's find out why. Before my brothers and I were born, my mom had a child with an old boyfriend, Penny. Her boyfriend/Penny's bio dad didn't stick around. My mom then met my dad when Penny was 3, and they got married. My dad adopted Penny. My mom then went on to have me and my brothers with our dad. Growing up, Penny was always the apple of my dad's eye. He gave us all attention, but he always went out of his way to make it equal. Around the time she entered her teens, Penny would make the joke, "Dad was stuck with you guys, but he chose me," or refer to herself as the chosen one. My brothers and parents always thought it was hilarious. I thought it was obnoxious. If our brothers and I were ever discussing what traits we got/didn't get from Dad, Penny would break in with, "I didn't get anything from him except his last name, because I'm the chosen one." Now we're all adults, and Penny still trots that out from time to time. Recently, it came up when my siblings and I were out with our parents for drinks. One of my brothers has a newish girlfriend, so she wasn't aware of Penny's story. Penny was telling it, shoving it in that she's the chosen one. I admit I was a little drunk and I said, "Chosen by our dad, but you weren't chosen by your first dad, huh?" Penny got a hurt look on her face. My brothers told me that was uncalled for. Even the new girlfriend was looking at me like I was a douche. I said this story is just getting old. We've all heard it, and it's a little ridiculous. My boyfriend ended up calling us an Uber and getting me out of there. Well, of course, word's gotten back to our parents, and they're pissed at me, saying I was rude. I said Penny was just being obnoxious. Am I the asshole? Comment from user Chaotic Nuclear. Jesus fucking Christ, yeah, obviously you're the asshole. Penny's joke might be annoying, but it's obvious she's overcompensating because being abandoned would cause such a big insecurity. If you had a legitimate issue, you could have discussed it privately. Not drop a nuke in the middle of a family dinner. User Olivia Moreau comments, Info. Are you really all adults? Because an actual adult should know how to use their big girl words when someone is bothering them. And you don't seem to. Instead, you had someone poking you with a stick, and you hurled a nuclear bomb back. Disproportionate response, especially to everyone there, for whom this looked like going from 0 to 60 in 0 seconds. Of course she got a hurt look on her face. It's because you actively tried to hurt her, and succeeded. You're the asshole. Yes, I absolutely can see how her shtick would get annoying, even though it's almost assuredly something she built to cover up her insecurity at being your collective dad's only non-bio child. But a reasonable approach would have been to have a chat with her on the side and say something like, "You're our family. You will always be a part of my family. But honestly, it hurts me when you say that. I know the others don't mind, but it hurts me. So I would appreciate it if you could quit saying that in front of me. She's your sister. Hopefully she loves you and doesn't want to hurt you, so she'd accept that and back off. Or maybe she wouldn't, and you two are both shitty sisters. But at least if you tried a grown-up conversation first, you wouldn't be the asshole and could take some moral high ground. Yeesh." And then finally, a comment that's actually an everyone sucks here. Kuroko Menu. Quote, "Dad was stuck with you guys, but he chose me." End quote. Everyone sucks here. I think what OP said was too much, but if Penny had been saying things similar to this for years since she was a teen and continued as an adult, then I can understand resentment building up in OP until it burst out. There is no need for Penny to undercut her sibling's sense of belonging while reassuring herself. What she says is shorthand for saying that she's loved and wanted, while her father simply can't get rid of her siblings and doesn't love or want them. It was understandable, while still not a good thing to do as a young teen, but as an adult, she herself should have realized that and cut it out. Really, OP's parents should have noticed the negative aspect and reassured Penny about her place in the family, while letting her know that saying things like that about her siblings wasn't kind or true, and she needs to stop. I think OP would have been better off addressing this earlier in a way that simply addressed the unnecessary way Penny always implied her siblings weren't wanted while she was. She's welcome to point out that she was chosen all she likes. Unfortunately, OP bottled everything up until it came out in a far crueler way than was necessary, one which only resulted in a Pyrrhic victory. So, scrolling down, there are some less popular comments that do fall in the not the asshole category. So this is a pretty split bill. I think personally I lean more towards the "you're the asshole / everyone sucks here" category because, yeah, I can definitely understand why OP would eventually have that carving into them over time of, "This hurts when you say that." But I also don't think Penny meant that. I think OP should have had a civilized and adult conversation with Penny about how those kind of words definitely hurts and stings a bit because it makes them feel as though they're not wanted in the family. So I can understand why OP would have that resentment build, and while alcohol's in the system, the bottle finally pops, and you've got these kind of emotions spilling out when they shouldn't be. I'm not saying it was the right approach, I'm just saying I understand how this happened. I think in the end, no matter what, OP and their sister need to sit down and have an honest-to-God conversation about this and just make amends, talk about it, and honestly just have a heart-to-heart about how this makes each other feel. I think that would be very beneficial for both of them. But with that said, how do you feel about this one? Where do you stand on this, and what's your general opinion? Squirrel Pearl Hurl. Am I the asshole? Tension after my father passed away, and I have to leave 36 hours later because of my in-laws. My in-laws stayed with my wife and me for 3 weeks to watch our toddler, while my wife and I were in the hospital having our second. Near the end of their visit, my dad unexpectedly became very ill, so I had to fly home to be with him. My mother-in-law promised she, if not also my father-in-law, would stay a few days extra, no cost to them as they were staying with us. She's retired and has no obligations for months. Sadly, my dad passed away the first day I was back home, and later that day, I was told my in-laws couldn't extend their stay. They had zero reason, other than telling my wife they were tired, as though I wasn't after caring for a newborn and watching my dad die, and wanted to go home. They haven't explained it to me or apologized for this. As a result, I had to leave my hometown and grieving mother just 36 hours after my dad passed. I had to care for a newborn and toddler while still in complete shock and utter exhaustion so my in-laws could go back to their cushy life. They want to come visit in less than a month, and when I told my wife I'm not comfortable with that, given what they did, my wife said it made her uncomfortable and overwhelmed. She agrees what they did was awful, but won't say anything about it to them, and expects me to just accept them visiting despite how I feel. Am I the asshole if I set a boundary and insist I'm not comfortable with them coming so soon? Or perhaps even just until we have a conversation? It's not just that they left me high and dry when I needed them most. It's that they didn't even reach out to me to explain or apologize. I'm just very hurt and very angry. Edit to clarify that they did not stay extra days. They left on their initially scheduled flight, after telling me they'd push it back. Additionally, my wife was less than 2 weeks removed from a C-section when I left and physically incapable of caring for a toddler and infant, so I had no choice but to come back. The only time my in-laws were primary caretakers of my toddler was the 3 days my wife and I were in the hospital. Otherwise, I primarily watched the toddler. Your in-laws went back on their word because they were tired and essentially put you in a position where you had to go home or you would be leaving your wife alone dealing with the recovery from a C-section after your father had died. That's not a fun position to be in, and that really sucks of them to do that, without a doubt. Comment from Freya Navarrete, and I am sorry if I butchered that pronunciation. Not the asshole. To be completely honest, people who are that inconsiderate of what is one of the highest traumas of almost everybody's lives, they're not family. They don't love you. Anybody who doesn't respect the parents shouldn't see the child. Edit, since so many people are so hell-bent on the wife being the asshole and insist that they don't need to do one single Google search to see that postpartum symptoms can last well beyond 3 weeks, and that 3 weeks is not a very long time post-birth, I did the bare minimum effort for you. Here you go. Quote, postpartum symptoms can last from a few days to several years depending on the condition. The, quote, baby blues, end quote, characterized by mood swings and anxiety, usually resolve within 2 weeks. However, postpartum depression, PPD, can begin weeks or months after birth, and, without treatment, can persist for months or even years. Some studies show that PPD can last up to 3 years, with a significant portion of mothers experiencing symptoms throughout this period. Here, I'll make it easier for you to Google yourself. Literally just the link for the Google results. Here's one of the various symptoms of postpartum and how severe they can be, since some of you, sadly, including mothers who have already given birth, seem to not understand that the experience is vastly different for many people. Okay? Since you guys don't want to do it, is this enough for you? Leave the poor woman alone and quit treating women like this. Thank you. I will not be replying to anyone who decides to still ignore it for the sake of attacking women they don't know. Big appreciation for the commenter for breaking that down, and I do definitely think that OP is in the right in this situation, and the boundaries they're requesting are 100% reasonable. Because these are people who want to come over and visit, didn't apologize, give any reasoning for why OP had to abandon his mother and his now deceased father because they were tired and, couldn't just stay with their daughter for a little bit longer while her husband was dealing with the death of a parent. I wonder how the in-laws would feel that their daughter had to skip her grieving process because someone went back on their word. Putrid ad 1080. Am I the asshole for not canceling our long-planned trip because my mother-in-law scheduled surgery at the same time? My husband and I have a big trip planned for 5 weeks from now. It's a once-in-a-lifetime type of vacation. 15 days on the other side of the world, over 27 hours of flights each way. We've been planning and saving for it for over 6 months. Both of us work very stressful jobs and very rarely get the chance to take any time off like this. Never did on the last 12 years. My mother-in-law, 70, has several health problems. She recently scheduled a complicated surgery for exactly the same time we'll be away. She knew we were away. We were not consulted about the timing. There's almost no other family around, and the few relatives who live about 40 minutes away either don't drive, have jobs, or simply can't/won't help her during recovery. We don't have the option to reschedule our trip without losing a significant amount of money, and honestly, we suspect she chose these dates partly for attention or to create conflict. There were other possible dates. Now, there's pressure on us to cancel and be there for her, but we feel like after all the time, money, and energy we put into this trip, and how rarely we get breaks, it's unfair to expect us to change our plans. Am I the asshole for deciding to still go on our trip? Okay, this one is an interesting one because it's almost the polar opposite to the one where we had the daughter wanting to go to brunch and reschedule her father's surgery so she could have a nice little brunch date with her brother. This is kind of the polar opposite where we have someone scheduling their surgery to interfere with someone's vacation. Potentially, not confirmed, but if they knew they were on vacation during that and chose that date when there were other days available, I'm kind of left in the position where this may have been a purposeful power play. She knew about the trip, she scheduled it anyways, did not consult you, and expects you to cancel your vacation because of her poor planning skills, or perhaps potentially her purposeful planning skills. If the mother-in-law really needed help with recovery, she should have spoken to OP and her husband first, without just simply making the plans and expecting them to fall in line with her impromptu surgery date. I think my biggest fear would be while going on vacation and choosing not to be there for your mother-in-law, that something then happens, and now you're just kind of stuck with that. And that guilt, and that feeling of, I chose this vacation over the life of a family member. And if this is kind of a mother-in-law from hell situation, I wouldn't be shocked to find out or learn that that's part of the plan, is to use that kind of guilt trip to essentially weaponize that and get them to cancel the vacation. Why she wants that vacation canceled? I couldn't tell you. But coincidences are coincidences until they become a pattern, and there's enough coincidences here where it definitely raises an eyebrow. But what do you think of this situation, and where do you stand on your opinion of how OP should handle this, and how they're currently handling it? Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup. And you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.